Hi, this is Debbie with Westgate, and today we're going to look at verbs and all the things that you need to know about verbs for standardized tests. These will always be on SAT exams, and they'll also help with your English if you're preparing for one of the English proficiency exams. So we're going to go over 3 different rules today, and these are things that we don't always think about when we're focusing on verbs, and they are where a lot of errors occur. So first thing, it's obvious, but believe it or not, there are lots of mistakes, and this is a highly tested concept on the SAT exam. Subjects have to agree with their corresponding verbs, meaning if you have a singular subject, pair it with a singular verb, and if you have a plural subject, pair it with a plural verb. We'll have these things called collective nouns, which sometimes may sound like they're plural. For example, the word everyone, you picture multiple people, oh, it must be plural. But always ask yourself this: would you say everyone is or everyone are? Hopefully, the second statement, everyone are, sounds awkward, and you've just realized, oh, I think that needs to be a singular subject. So watch out for collective nouns or collective subjects, and always do that is/are test on them, and it'll pull out for you whether or not it needs to be paired with a singular verb or a plural verb. So again, our ear always knows she is, we are. Singular, singular, plural, plural. When in doubt, run your subject through the is/are test, and that'll get you out of trouble. Okay, here's a sample problem. Let's look at it and see if you can find the error. Go ahead and pause for a second. Now, if you've had time to look over the sentence, you already know you're looking for a verb error, so that might help a little bit. But this is fairly typical. The basketball players, and then they're going to put in a prepositional phrase right after our subject. So I'm already telling you our subject is the basketball players. But because they don't put the was or the were right after the subject, many times you'll get lost and you will pair the verb with the prepositional phrase. And here's what we mean by that. Around the outdoor pond, that's the prepositional phrase. So many people stick the verb right after the word pond, which you'll notice is singular. And so it won't sound wrong to the ear to have the word was here. But if you strip your subject down and say who or what was walking, not the pond wasn't, it's the basketball players. And you know they, plural, they were walking. So many times you have to get used to ignoring prepositional phrases that are attached to your key subject, okay? So obviously your answer there is B, should be were. Okay, second verb rule, and this one's really important, and whether you ever take a standardized test or not, this is all over the SAT, but regardless, this is a great way to write. So many people, when I'm grading their essays, don't use verb parallelism, and it sounds real clunky and awkward. And people aren't even aware that this is a skill that makes their writing sound really smooth and eloquent. So what we mean by parallelism in our verbs is we always want to use the same verb forms. So, for example, I like to walk, to run, and to swim. Notice I have the verb all in the same format. Excuse me. To verb, and to verb. You wouldn't say I like to walk, to run, and swimming. Actually, many people would. That's the problem. And their writing just won't sound that great. So if you start out with the infinitive in front of the verb to, just say infinitive verb or to verb. You don't need to know the terminology. But you'll see how that's parallel. That's what makes for really great writing. Same example here. Since verbs, we have some options in the way that we format them. I like walking, running, and swimming. Verbing, and verbing. Nice and parallel again. And here we are. We want to keep our verbs parallel in the tenses that we use as well. He walked, ran, and swam. Now I throw you a bit of a twist there. I threw you a bit of a twist because it should be verbed, and verbed. And it is technically. It's just that run and swim are irregular verbs, so they don't have an ed version. So be careful, make sure you know your irregular verbs, and just if you're in the past tense, keep it in the past tense. If it's in the present, keep it in the present, okay? Here's your sample problem. I'm going to pull it up and give you a minute to pause here and take a look for your answer. Okay, now that you've come back, let's check our sentence. Despite having had no formal education, James was still able to master the guitar by listening to recordings, reading instructional books, and he practiced on his own. I guarantee you I've seen many sentences like this from very intelligent people and decent writers. And this is where the subtle errors show up on the SAT and in writing. So the key to this one, because we've got a lot of verbs underlined in this sentence, but which one is listing a series of verbs? If you think about it, it's the actions that James is taking to master his guitar. What are the things he does or the actions he takes to master the guitar? Listening to recordings, reading instructional books, and, can you get it now? Practicing on his own. That's where you're unbalanced in this sentence, okay? That's just a reinforcement. All of these printouts will be available on my website shortly, so if you ever want a reinforcement or to look at the exercises again, you'll be able to download those there and have them in Word format. Okay, verb rule 3. Make sure to keep the verbs in the proper tenses. Sentences won't just arbitrarily mix tenses. We sometimes get real sloppy in our speech, and we will go back and forth between present and future, present and past mostly. People are much more susceptible to doing this in writing than they are speaking, but see this one all the time. And of course, it's a big no-no on the ACT. So here's a sample sentence. Going to see if you can pull out the error. Go ahead and pause. When you're ready, come back. Okay, let's read this sentence. Last week, Rachel went to the orthodontist with her mother, where they receive a bag of rubber bands she must apply regularly. Maybe you picked up on it. Maybe you didn't, because this would be a typical sentence that we would say a lot, even though it's got some grammatical errors in it. If you look at the I already gave away the answer, sorry. If you look at the underlined portion or the non-underlined portion of the sentence, you can see we've got last week. That indicates to me it's past, a past event. And look at this other verb that's not underlined, which means we have to stick with that because we can't change that. Went. It's an irregular verb. Go, went, had gone. Went is the past tense. So you probably want to be in the past tense. What other verbs are not in the past tense here? Yeah, receive. They received. We don't want to move into the present tense. So D would be your proper answer there. So those are the 3 types of verb questions that are going to show up on standardized exams, most particularly the SAT. And they're going to help with your writing and your speaking. So these are really good exercises to make sure that you're comfortable moving back and forth. All right, hope that helped, and we'll see you next time.